Just what do you do with a drunken sailor?
Is this my reward for believing the best about men?
I'm relatively new to the Assassin's Creed series. My first outing with the Hidden Blades was with Ezio Auditore in Assassin's Creed 2, and that wasn't until 10 years after its release. That game is great and still holds up to this day, but you've read the title, you know this isn't about Assassin's Creed 2. No, I just finished playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and I gotta tell you, ma'am, this is the pirate game I've been looking for years. This is right up there in my all-time favourites, and there are many reasons for that which I'll go over in this review. Of course, there are some setbacks and I'll point those out too, but overall playing Black Flag in 2020 was an incredible experience that I want to share with you. We start off like any good pirate adventure, on the deck of a ship, in the midst of battle, when seemingly out of nowhere, an assassin rudely makes his way on board. Before Edward can make him walk the plank, however, a cannonball interrupts their little showdown and launches them both into the water. Lucky he knows how to swim. I mean, he'd be a ship pirate. Sorry, privateer if he didn't. Edward makes his way to the nearby shore and hey, look at that, your new best friend is there after they both took a Duncan.
Let's help each other out,
says the assassin.
You help me get to Havana and I'll give you 100 monies.
And Edward's just like,
shit son, why didn't you say before?
Psych! The assassin whips out his wet ass pistol and it fails to fire, so he takes off running inland. Edward starts to chase him and once he catches up with him, takes him down fairly easily. Must have been a trainee assassin. After changing into the assassin's clothes, Edward finds a note addressed to the dead guy, Mr. Duncan Walpole. Thanks for the new disguise, mate. And this kicks off the swashbuckling adventure that is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Now, one thing I love about this game, most of all, is the fact that you get to meet some of the most famous pirates in history, all the ones that existed in the golden age of piracy. And playing this game really made me want to watch Black Sails again. Amazing series, go watch it. But you get to sail the seas with the likes of Edward Blackbeard Thatch, Benjamin Hornigold, Mary Read, who's James Kidd, Steed Bonnet, Anne Bonny, Jack Rackham, Charles Vane, and Bartholomew Roberts. And each of these characters have their own contained story within the whole game that you kind of go through with them, and you get to play out with them and kind of get to know these characters just a little bit more. For example, there's one section of the game where you actually end up marooned on an island with Charles Vane, who's an absolute nutjob. Christ alive, thank God you got off that island without him. But that was right after Jack Rackham was just like, yo bitch, I'm taking your ship. And there's an issue in Nassau where you need to help Captain Blackbeard gathering all this medicine, and let's say he wants to do it a different way than what you do. But collect medicine for Nassau you do. Nassau's this new world for pirates where they all want to go to live separately from England. Those redcoat bastards. But the place is struggling a little bit. So, because of that, Ben Hornigold decides that he wants to join the Templars because he's like, Nassau's a lost cause. I'm going to join these guys. They seem to know what they're doing. They're the good ones. So cool, he joins the Templars. The thing is, I feel like the Assassin-Templar conflict takes a backseat to all the pirate shenanigans that's going on. Which isn't a complaint, it's just an observation. Assassins don't really feel important to the game until, I guess, endgame really. Which I found a little strange for an Assassin's Creed game. But I did find the present day sections provided a nice little break between all the action. There wasn't too many of them and they weren't really that long, but that part of the story was largely uninteresting compared to being Edward Kenway in the Caribbean, so I'm glad there wasn't that many of them. The ending's a nice payoff for all the struggles that Edward's endured. There's a wonderful scene in the credits where he's on the ship with his daughter. He's basically just apologising for why he wasn't around and just kind of talking to her about her mother. It's really heartwarming. And there is a mid-credits scene in a theatre which is a nice little, I guess, segue into Assassin's Creed 3, where Edward's at the theatre with his daughter and his new son Haytham, and we all know who that guy is. Overall, I thought the story is brilliant, mainly because you get to see all these famous places and all these famous pirates that lived throughout history. It was amazing to be with them in the Caribbean. And the Caribbean, I must say, looks absolutely stunning. I've been to the Caribbean and it is truly beautiful. And they really capture that here. You've got lush greens everywhere from all the different foliage and the forests and all the different blues in the seas, with the turquoisey colour blue around the shore, and then it goes to a deep blue when the sea gets deeper. The colour range in this game is amazing. I would love to see it in HDR because the colours, it's just such a beautiful game. And what better way to experience all of these wonderful colours than viewpoints, which return. Obviously, they're a Ubisoft staple, and they show off all the beautiful surroundings when you get up to the top and synchronise. I know some people like to complain about that, but I do love scaling these towers, mainly to unlock the fast points, but when you do get up there and it shows you all the surroundings and you get to see all these wonderful colours and large distances, they look gorgeous. And when you see all these towns, the towns, they feel lived in, they're well populated. A lot of detail has been put into these towns. In fact, a lot of detail has been put into this whole game, particularly the ships. The ships are incredibly detailed. I've been on the HMS Victory in Portsmouth. I've seen a real ship. These ships, they look incredible. They really have captured the ships of the time, and they're so fun to move across as well, especially moving across the tops of the sails when you're trying to board another ship, or when you use the lifts at the bottom and Edward just goes flying straight up the mast. The ships themselves really are just a fun playground for you to climb around in. The parkour works so well on the ships. And another thing I like is while you're on the ships, when you're sailing, all of the sailors like to sing sea shanties, and these just make every voyage feel like a jolly boys outing, and it just makes the experience so much more pleasant.
We're all bound over the mountain. Up socks, you cocks, hand her 2 blocks. Way to the and go below to your old ditty box. Roll down over the mountain.
But aside from the sea shanties, the music, the soundtrack of this game is phenomenal. Phenomenal soundtrack by Brian Tyler. I listened to it a few times while writing up this review. It really just fills you with the genuine belief that you're in an epic pirate adventure and just motivates you to want to succeed at all costs. And succeed you will with all the tight gameplay. There's a lot to go over with the gameplay. There's a lot of different things that come together and work as one. Starting with the parkour. Now most of the time, the parkour is very easy to get around. The towns, they're built in a way where most of the time it is quicker just to get to where you want to go across rooftops. With the exception of Kingston, that place is just a bit too open and flat. Very much like my own personality. Maybe we should start calling me Mickey Kingston Neal, eh? And the majority of the time the parkour does feel great. However, there are times when it's a bit clunky. Either Edward doesn't go where you want, he'll jump off, he'll just run into things. It wasn't as polished as I was really hoping for. You know, especially when it's the 6th game in the series. You'd think they'd just have a bit more tighter controls on the parkour side of things when that's one of their main things of the game, you know? I just felt that sometimes Edward refused to listen to commands. Then again, I guess they might have been going for pirate realism there. I've already mentioned the viewpoints, but yeah, climbing they open up fast travel routes for just the bigger towns that you're in, so it's just much easier to get around. Now I want to talk about the combat, starting with combat on land, which is fun. Combat is fun, it's fluid, it feels good. Cutting through and bathing in the blood of my enemies was satisfying every single time. Though, just tapping a button to shoot people didn't really feel skillful all that much. It made the brute boss towards the end a bit too easy, but crafting more holsters to have 4 shots was really nice. Overall with the combat, the whole thing is far too easy if you ask me. The counter window is more generous than your nan preparing your lunch, and break defense will work every single time. You can pretty much take on an army just with 2 swords. It was so easy, but it was still fun. Although a bit more challenge would have been welcomed. I did have times where I wanted to run up to an enemy and just assassinate them, but instead Edward would just run into them and then through them. That was annoying. I'd very much like just to be able to go but that didn't happen. No, he was just like then the guards was just like,
Oi, you there! You! I see you!
It's like, well fuck, now I'm caught. And I said you could take on an army with 2 swords. That's right, the hidden blades in this game are dog shit. Like, they felt useless. Swords were way stronger, and to be honest, I bought swords very early on in the game, and they lasted me the whole game. There was no real need to switch up the swords that I was using. So yeah, you could just pretty much take on anyone with 2 swords, and that's it. Just counter, attack, break defense, attack. Human shield was good. Sometimes if people had guns, you can grab someone, use them as human shield. That's 1 enemy down. The windows are so big to pull these maneuvers. It just made it very easy. Ship combat, on the other hand, the ship combat in this game is fully fleshed out and allowed for a lot of tactical decisions. And there were so many different ways of attacking enemy ships. You have a chain shot, which when upgraded looks like you're launching all your BDSM equipment to hide it from your parents. Now what this does, it slows the maneuverability of enemy ships, allowing you to kind of quickly get into a good position and start wailing on them basically. You got round shot, which is aimed and fired from each side of the ship. that's just your standard shot, just to fire against enemies who you feel like have wronged you. Then you got heavy shot. Now this deals massive damage, but this cannot be aimed and has to be done at close range, so you really need to get up to the side of the ship and then fire a heavy shot, and oh boy is that effective. And then we have mortars. Now these do large amounts of damage and a long range, and it takes time for the shots to get there, so you kind of need to aim just in front of where the enemy's heading towards. And when firing your cannons, you'll notice a little, say, target appears, and you can press triangle or Y to use your swivel guns, and this will just do a little bit extra damage on weak points that you've exposed with your normal shots. And fire barrels can be launched from the stern of the ship, and these are good for if a ship is actually following behind you. I didn't really use them all that much. They were used against me, but you can shoot them with the swivel guns when an enemy's near to blow it up and do a bit of splash damage, or obviously if they go through them, then that's also going to cause quite a lot of damage. And the last thing you can do here is you can ram into other ships, so you can actually upgrade the bow of the ship to straight on go, and that can do devastating damage if you really upgrade it. It's amazing what you can do with ramming an enemy. And once you've immobilized a ship by firing everything you have at them, you can then board them. If you get up close, you hold circle or B, I played it on PlayStation, so, to board the ship, and then just before you go onto the ship, you can use the swivel guns and actually most of the time take out all the crew that you need to then finish the fight. These swivel guns only have 5 shots, so make them count. But then you can also jump across to the ship, or you got ropes that you can swing across at each end of the ship to get on there. At no time did I ever fall into the sea when trying to swing to the other ship. Never. That never happened to me, ever. Nope. But once you're on the ship, it's just standard combat. Just use your swords, take them all out. Or, like I said earlier, you can use the lifts to get up to the sails and just bring death from above. And once you've dispatched all the enemies on a ship, you receive their booty, then you're presented with 3 choices. You can repair the jackdaw, which repairs the jackdaw. You could lower your wanted level, because you actually become wanted the more ships that you attack. There's like 2 red cross swords that fill up above the jackdaw's health, and once that's filled up, you then have pirate hunters which come after you, and then you can attack them and fight them. And so you can lower your wanted level, or you can send them to Kenway's fleet. Kenway's fleet is an excellent way to make money. It's a little mini game where the ship battles are automated, and you can send off ships to trade with other places in the Caribbean, or even across the Atlantic actually. It's just a fun little mini game, and it feels great when you boot up the game again after not playing it for a while to then check Kenway's fleet, and then you suddenly get a flood of money coming in. You get thousands of monies. But when choosing these, each one has their own little cutscene that plays out, and you have to watch the cutscene every time. Slight frustrating, but hey, I guess it's a loading screen really, just to get back into the world. Although if you sink an enemy ship without boarding it, you will only get half of the booty. Now of course it's an Assassin's Creed game, you're going to have stealth and tail missions. I'm terrible with stealth games, so if given the chance I will always go in flailing about, just doing as much damage as possible. Though there is plenty of cover in all locations for you to hide. A crouch mode would have been nice, instead of relying on these specific points that you can hide. It would have been good just to crouch down and then you just a bit stealthed, you know. I think it would allow the game to just flow a little bit more freely instead of having to like stop start in all these different positions. But I guess it adds some sort of challenge as well. What I did love doing though is when I was in the bushes, I'd always wolf whistle the guards to let them know I'm interested, and then when they got close I'd just stab them in the neck. I have nothing positive to say about the tailing missions or eavesdropping. Personally, I despise them. I hated them, and I mean I could feel that way because of my lack of skill in stealth games, but I really did not like the tailing or eavesdropping missions. They're just not my thing. Moving on, this game is packed with side content. I've already mentioned the viewpoints, so they open up fast travel routes. They're good to get. But you've also got forts, which are essentially viewpoints for the sea. They unlock sections of the world map. But these need to be captured with a naval battle. You need to fire your cannons at them and really destroy the fort, then go on land and fight on there as well before you can actually have the fort. I didn't really bother with them myself, to be honest. I think I did the one that was part of the story and that was that. Now I mentioned sea shanties earlier as well that your crew gets to sing. You don't start off with all the sea shanties. You need to chase down the music sheets in random locations around the map. And once you get close to them, they start blowing away in the wind, so then you got to chase them, and it's fun. I didn't collect them all, but the ones that I did collect, they were fun to listen to. I did enjoy them. And you have chests that are just dotted around absolutely everywhere. They're all over the place, and they don't really net you a lot of reals, but they are worth doing in the early game. Just the first thing you do, just try and get as many chests as you can, because you're constantly going to need money in this game. Animus fragments, didn't see the point myself. I didn't get them, but They're there. Warehouse looting, another excellent way to make money. Essentially, all the stuff that you would get from a ship, you can actually loot from a warehouse on land. And to do this, you need to use stealth in the bushes to take out some guards, and make sure you cut off the bell ends so they don't raise an alarm and bring extra troops in. But it's good, once you've cleared the way, you've found the key, the person that's got the key, you take them down, steal the key, unlock the warehouse, all your boys just come in and take the goods. Love it. It was so fun to do. You've also got your assassins contracts, which, standard for these games, you assassinate people. It's fun, nets you some money, it's good. And also Templar contracts, which is one of the first things I made sure to do. Because when you get your chateau, I guess, on your own little island, there's some Templar armor hidden behind 5 keys. So of course you need to do these Templar hunts to get the keys, and wearing the Templar armor nets you 25% reduced damage. Of course I was going after that bitch. It is a little bit weird though when you're playing the game, and Ed was going like that to pull a hood up, but you're wearing the Templar armor, which doesn't have a hood. Little things like that are a bit weird, but it was definitely worth getting the armor. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is the best pirate game I've ever seen, and is the type of game that I've been searching for years. It rapidly became one of my favourite games, but that's just because I'm a sucker for all things pirate themed. I wish we had more pirate games like this with varied sea and land combat, a serious and stunning art style, and a gritty personality instead of the light-hearted and comedy-filled adventures that we get at the moment. Black Flag has been one of the most exciting gaming adventures I've been on, and I'm impressed with how accessible the game is with no difficulty option, and the outcome of every scenario being down to the way the player handles it, and their choices, allowing for people less skilled at stealth, such as myself, to still enjoy and complete the game. I recommend this game to anyone who loves Assassin's Creed, pirates, and a jolly good adventure with a fantastic story that grips you from the beginning. Have you played Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag? Which other pirate games would you recommend and why? Let's discuss it down in the comments. Make that like button walk the plank and subscribe for discussions on all things gaming past, present and future. If you're a fan of adventures, then click the card in a second to see my video on why Enslaved Odyssey to the West did not deserve to fail. And I'll see you over there. Bye bye.